Okay, so now hopefully we're back to a regular Monday Night Mishlei schedule, God willing. And I was asked by someone who planned to come to the shiur that after the shiur, if we want to just take some time to talk about what's happening in the world, what we're going through, then we could do that. But I just wanted to say, going into this, that I don't know about your the various shiurim that you attend. I have definitely found myself, just because of the nature of the type of learning that I like to do, kind of all of my shiurim have shifted and geared towards something that is relevant to the current crisis. I guess if someone's listening to this and they don't know when I'm recording this, this is on October 16th, 2023, which is what, day 10 of the war that started on Shmini Atzeres, I think. So I want to say it's nice to have something like Mishlei, which is just a reliable, it's going to be Mishlei, it's going to be reliable. We can come back to this. And, I'm not saying that obviously Mishlei is about Tzadikim and Rashaim, so maybe this is going to have some bearing on the present situation, but, we're not learning this for the, with an eye towards the crisis. We're learning this because we learn Mishlei every week. So that's what we're going to start with. Okay, so let me share the screen and we will get started. Okay. You can see from the get-go, I put here two translation slots. Okay, we are going to have at least two radically different translations. That's what I'm predicting. We might even have more, but this is a weird one. I don't believe I've learned this one before. Okay, Yasser. This is Mishlei 12:26. Yasser mere'ehu tzadik v'derech Rashaim tat'ein. Would anyone be so brave as to try to translate this? And this is a difficult one to translate.
I can give it a shot.
Sure, that's all I'm asking.
Okay. Yater, like more than?
Yep, more than.
Okay. Then his friends is a tzaddik.
Okay.
Okay, and the
yeah. Go ahead.
And the path of Rishaim cause them to go astray.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Okay. This is a perfect translation for one iteration here. So, but the path of the Rishaim, the wicked, will lead them astray. Okay. So that is how I would have translated it. Okay. Did anyone know there are two radical departure points here? Okay. Actually, maybe not. One of them is radical. Is the other one radical? Yeah. I think it's kind of okay. One of them's radical, the other one's just like weird. Anyone know which word is going to be the most contentious here in terms of multiple ways to translate?
Derech?
Nope, derech is pretty straightforward. I mean, derech can have different meanings, but it's not like a radical translation thing. Like we'll translate it as path or way, and that could be interpreted in many ways.
Titaim.
That's a good guess. I did not see. I'm sure similarly there are different interpretations, but the one radical one is yater. Okay, so let's look. This is why I hid the minimalist meforshim here. Okay, so Sadigon translates it the way you did, David, or not the way you did, but in the camp that you translated in. So Latzadik yesh yisron al re'ehu. Okay, the tzaddik has an advantage over his fellow. Okay, and for students who have had me for Koheles, he's using the word yisron in the like normal Hebrew way, not the Koheles jargon way. Okay, Targum I think is straightforward. Tav min chavre tzadika. So the tzaddik, that's like what David said. The tzaddik is more than or better than his friend. Better than his friend. I'll say more or better. Okay, than his friend. Tzadika v'orchahon derashie mate lahon. But the path of the wicked will lead them astray. Okay, so I'm not even going to write that down. That part is the same. Okay, now the Malbim is the person who brought to my attention this interesting thing. Okay, Malbim says yater shorasho tur. Okay, so the shorish of yater is tur sheba al harigul shema'ayin al miriyehu, that it comes from spying on your friend. Okay, so this is like what's the example that you're most familiar with where we see that that phrase or that shorish?
Miraglim.
Say again?
The Miraglim.
Okay, definitely the Miraglim, but there's one that we're even more familiar with because we say it 2 times a day. There's lo sasuru achri levavikum achri einechem, right? Don't spy out, seek out after your eyes, right? So so you're right about the Meraglim also. Or don't explore after your eyes. Okay, so that's one radical difference, and then the other radical difference, not so radical, but I would have automatically assumed, like David did and like the Targum did, that the mem means from, or when you're using comparison words, mem is than. Okay, but the Malbim says umem mereehu min hashoresh. Okay, it's part of the root. Kamo mereim de Shimshon, like Shimshon's buddies. Okay, it means friend. Hold on. Sheni. Oh, okay. He's acknowledging there is another parish. Going to the second interpretation, inyan yater v'tosefes v'hamem mirehu min re'ehu. Okay, so the second one is the way that we said it. So he's saying here that this comes from the word merea, which means a friend or a companion. Okay, so according to this, okay, if yater means to spy, and mirehu does not mean from his friend or better than his friend, but his friend. So how do you translate the first half of the pasuk? Yater mereehu tzadik.
Spies are the friend of Tzadik.
Not exactly, because it's a verb.
One who spies out his friends. Is it Tzadik?
You're still treating it as a noun.
A tzaddik spies out his friends.
Tzadik spies on his friend. Okay, so that's what I meant by like radically different. Okay, but then the second half is the same. Okay, so these are two radically different ways of interpreting it. And if we see the English translations we have here, ArtScroll says a righteous one has an advantage over his fellow, but they say successful way of the wicked leads them astray. Okay, I don't know why they insert successful here. Refer says the righteous excels above his neighbor, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. And then Alter says the righteous exceeds his fellow man, but the wicked's way leads him astray. And then Alter kind of expresses my general feeling. So I had this feeling even before I saw that there was anything wrong here, or before there's a controversy. Yasser mere'ehu tzadik. To me, I don't know if anyone got weird feelings. To me, it feels weird. And what it felt like, because if you translate it literally, it's like better than his friend is tzadik. You know, and what it reminded me of, and let's see how much you're holding in 2018 trivia. Okay, does anyone remember what Melania Trump's anti-bullying campaign was called? What her slogan was? Actually, it was the name of the. And if not, I will not blame you. Okay, it was the most awkward sounding name. Okay, the name of the campaign was "Be Best," and to me, that's just weird English, right? Be best. Like that's not something you would say to someone. Like you say be your best or be the best, but be best. So that's kind of like the vibe. I'm getting like the Melania Trump English anti-bullying vibe from the word Yasser Mereehu. Just better than Tzadik is better than friend is Tzadik, you know? So that's that was the vibe I got. And again, the fact that Alter says this and doesn't like change the manuscript like he often will like play fast and loose with the manuscript means that like it's like right at the cusp of what he's willing to tolerate. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just have I think our two translations kind of encompass everything. So more or better than his friend is a tzaddik. Actually, what I'm gonna do this. Hold on. I'm gonna do 1a. I think 1b is worth just listing separately. Okay, so translation 1b is a tzaddik has an advantage over his friend. Okay, which is, I'm classifying it in the same group because it's still treating yater as more. Okay, and a tzaddik spies on his friend is the radically different one, and then everyone is pretty much translating the second half the same, but the path of the Rishaim will lead them astray. Okay, so what are the questions? I might as well put this in the chat since I can. Okay, what are the questions here? And if your question is unique to one specific parish, then just tell me, to one specific translation, just tell me ahead of time so I can like brace my mind for that. Yeah, Isaiah?
I'm going to ask, can you hear me this time?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to ask the Ariel question.
Okay.
This seems obvious to me because
okay.
the Risham's path is good. If you go with the first translations, the
Okay,
Tzaddik's
right.
path is good and the Risham's path is bad.
Okay, so I'll say especially according to translation 1, this seems obvious, right? Obviously, a tzaddik is better than Rishaim, and obviously the path of the Rishaim will lead them astray. right? So what is the chiddush? What is the new insight? Yes. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah. How is the second half of the pasuk, like the opposite of any of the translations?
Okay. How is the second half of the pasuk the opposite of either translation, right? So the path of the Rasha leads him astray does not seem to be the opposite. Well, it's closer to the opposite of the first translation, because the first translation seems to be saying that the Tzadik, it doesn't talk about his path, but that the Tzadik somehow is going to end up, in a better place or have some advantage, whereas the Rasha is going to end up lower. But you're right, it's not a direct opposite. And then if it's saying that Tzadik spies on his friend, then it definitely doesn't seem like the opposite. Yeah. I'll say especially according to the second translation. Yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, I guess I also think this kind of banks a little bit off of Ariel's. Maybe it's just a different way about it. But are we assuming that the Tzadik is like doing the opposite of leading them astray? So like putting them on the correct path, or?
Oh, good question. Okay, so let me say here, what should we assume about I'm trying to find a way to say this without mentioning the names of anyone in the shiur, but I can't. What are we assuming about the blanks in the pasuk? Okay, meaning what do we assume about the Tzadik's path, and what do we assume about the advantage or spying of the Rasha? Okay, that's good. Ayala.
Okay, so according to translations 1,
Yeah.
in what way is the Tzadik better than his friend?
Okay.
And is it like socially?
Okay. According to translation 1, in what way is a tzaddik better than his friend? Did you say, is it socially?
Like based off the way you were talking about it, I kind of thought it meant like in the social hierarchy, kind of.
Okay, so I'm just going to say in what framework? In what framework or by what metric is he better? Yeah. Okay, Ariel?
Yeah, my question is on translation 2 and 1b, but 2 separate.
Okay.
So first of all, what does it mean that you're spying on your friend? It sounds a little creepy.
Yeah.
And
okay. So according to translation 2, translation 2, what does it mean that the tzaddik spies on his friend? And I'm just going to go ahead and fill in details here. How and why, right? Yeah. Okay.
And for 1b, what does it mean he has an advantage over his friend, I guess?
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and tack that on to question 4. So let's say, according to 1b, what is this advantage? Yeah, Isaiah? Okay, I'll skip Isaiah.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, what are Tzadik and Rasha in terms of this topic?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, what are the definitions of Tzadik and Rasha in this context? And I'll just repeat for methodology purposes that in Mishlei, whenever you have a term like Tzadik and Rasha, sometimes it means a technical definition. There could be multiple technical definitions. For example, we've seen that Rasha can mean someone who's evil, but we've also seen Rasha could just mean someone who is we didn't see this in Mishlei, but we saw this in Tehillim. Rasha could mean someone who is like lacks integrity, like is like like the I think Ibn Ezra is the one who says it stems from the same root as Ra'ash, which means like unsettled inside. So it could be like on the Hitler to hoodlum spectrum. It could be like different places on there. And also Tzadik in Rasha could just mean the person who makes the good Mishlei decision and the person who makes the bad one. So is this are these terms being used generically or technically? Okay, next is my dad.
Who's being led astray? Is it the Tzadik is
Okay.
led astray, or is it the friend being spied upon?
Okay, who is being led astray? Okay, so
It
there's
could
actually
be both, because it says them.
okay, so there's actually three possibilities. What's the third possibility? Anyone?
Nothing?
The Rasha.
The Rasha, right? So is it the so I would say that the most likely answer is that the path of the wicked, plural, leads them astray. They're the only ones who are being talked about in the plural here. So that's what I would assume. But I'll still ask the question. So in other words, hold on a second. Is it the Rashaim themselves, or is it the Tzadik, or his fellow, or someone else? Yeah. Okay. Good. Rivki?
What's the practical decision making? Like, is it, are we assuming that it's be friends with the Tzadik and not a Rasha, or what's the actual, like,
Okay, right. So this is a good case where I think we do have to pair this with what is the decision-making scenario and who is the intended audience? Because I think those questions, it's funny how those questions sometimes go together and sometimes you can answer them independently. Ariel?
Yeah, I have two questions. One is how are we defining friend here?
Yes, that is an important question. Okay, so I'm gonna put this one up over here. Okay, who is the friend or fellow in this context, right? So this is either, I mean, who I think there's two possibilities that immediately suggest themselves.
Yeah, it could be your actual immediate friends, your surroundings, or acquaintances, colleagues, neighbors.
Okay, I was thinking differently. Okay, so I'll put it under one. Okay, is this a someone who you have a specific social tie with, for example, like a good friend or neighbor? Okay, what are some other possibilities?
Could be the Rasha.
The Rasha. Interesting. Okay, that could be, yeah.
Would it be a Charusa?
Say again?
Would it be a Charusa?
Okay, close. I would say the second possibility, okay, second, I'm not saying most likely, but more likely than a Rasha, is a fellow Tzadik, okay? A fellow Tzadik, meaning the word Rea typically means someone who is like you in some case. So if I say like the Tzadik and his fellow, you could say that means his fellow Tzadik, okay? Or the most generic like meaning possible, right? I mean like anybody. Okay. Yeah. I think those like three broad things. I mean, I'll say what Isaiah said also. Or could it even be talking about the Rasha? Okay. The only reason I'm so I would bet money that this is not the case, because why would it refer to him as a friend? Especially if it's saying that he's better than them. If it's saying he's spying on them, then I understand it, but it's still weird to call him a friend. Yeah, Ariel?
And my next question is, what's the scenario of the pasuk?
Yeah, I included that under Rifki's question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, sorry. You know what? I didn't include. Hold on. That's not what Rifki asked. Rifki asked, "What is the practical decision making?" Practical decision making. Yeah, you're right. This should be a separate question. What is the decision making scenario, and what is the practical decision making idea, and who's yeah. I when I was writing it, I meant what you said, Rifki. I just wrote the wrong words. Yeah, David.
Selfishly, what are the benefits to the Tzadik and the drawbacks to the Rasha here?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and tack that onto here, which is actually no. Hold on. Okay, I'll put this as a separate question. I think this could fit under here, or it could fit under what does it mean that it leads the Rasha astray, and it could also fit under why does the Tzadik do this? But what are the Mishleic benefits and consequences to either party? Yeah, Noah?
This is just kind of like a tack-on question, so you can leave it if you don't want it, but I want it. This is for Ariel's number 5.
Okay.
When he is investigating or exploring his friend, what information
Yeah.
is he looking for? What is he looking to gather? And what does he do with that information?
Okay, good. That's a much more precise question. What does he do with that information? Yeah. Okay, that's good. That reminded me of something also. Hold on. Oh yeah, I do have one more question, but yeah, okay. Yeah, next is my dad.
I'm a little bit confused about the path of the Rasha, the path.
Yeah. Did we not ask that? I guess we didn't ask that. So what, wait, I thought we did ask that. Maybe not. No, I guess not. Okay. What, oh yeah, I know why, because Ariel mentioned that when we were talking about the translation. What does path mean in this context? And then specifically, what is the path of the Rishaim? Okay, good. Ariel?
Yeah, and it's possible I'm asking this question because I have an idea brewing, but I think maybe in general, like, what are the parameters or what's the spectrum of a Rasha? Meaning, like, is there like one specific, or you can have like even Rasha can have like a spectrum of where they lie?
Yeah, I'll put that onto the definition question here. Can there be a spectrum within whatever definition we give? Yeah. Okay, good. David?
Also, it's number 5.
Say again? Also number 5? Oh, did you just freeze? Is that why you got cut off? Yeah. Either you freeze or you're really contemplating. I'm going to go on to Rifki for now, and then you can come back when you come back. Yeah, Rifki?
Yeah, I think this is potentially included in one of the other questions, but are we assuming that for the second half that the friend or whoever's involved is better than the Rasha, or like are we applying that part to the second half too?
So that's kind of what Isaiah was implicitly asking by giving this answer, is that okay, well, okay, maybe it's not. Okay. The Tzadik is better than his fellow. So whoever his fellow is, he's better than that guy. And I would say the implication is certainly he's better than the Rasha. Is that what you're asking? Or are you asking something different?
Meaning the same, yeah, like the same third person, like the same third party.
You're asking the relationship between the comparison between the third party and the Rasha?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that we're not necessarily saying, but I can ask that in the comparison question. Also, how does the Re'ehu, the fellow, compare to the Rasha in this framework? Yeah. Okay, Noah?
So this is a question about sequence, and it's dependent on how we define friend, probably.
Yeah.
But when the actor is investigating this person, is that before becoming a friend, or as a friend, or
okay, that's a good
all
question.
related
So when?
in time?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so when does he do this? Prior to becoming a friend, or once the friendship or say, I'm going to use quotation marks here, once friendship already exists? Okay, and then why then? Yeah, okay, good. So we need to get a full breakdown of his spy mission objectives. Yeah, W, you're back.
Yes. Within that spy mission objective, does a friend not know about this? That's what spying seems to suggest. Although I feel like usually if someone's friends with a tzaddik, they'll be more open to sharing their information.
Yeah. Okay,
but it still seems like it's sneaky.
Right. Okay, so does the friend know about this? Okay, if not, why does the tzaddik keep it secret? And if so, why use the word spying, which implies secrecy? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm really glad at my unintentional decision to lump all of the spy questions in one thing, because I feel like if I listed each one separately, it'd be like way too long. Yeah, Ayala?
Okay, I'm not sure if we asked this yet, but what does toss aim mean?
Yeah, I'm also not sure if we asked that. Who's being led astray, we asked. Did we ask what it means to be led astray? No. We did not. Okay. What does it mean to lead them astray, right? And then how does this work? Yeah, that's good. Okay, yeah, David, you have another one? Or is that left over from before? Okay. One question which we always ask tentatively, and the only reason I'm actually going to ask it now, I mean, we should ask it anyway, but I happen to accidentally see that someone answers it. So at least one of the meforshim thinks that this is a good question. Why is Tzadik singular and Rasha plural? So again, that's a question that if we don't answer, then I don't think that's the biggest deal. Why is there a significance in the fact that Tzadik is singular and Rashaim is plural? Okay, and there's one more thing I wanted to say. Maybe that's it. Oh yeah, I was gonna look, since it's been so long since we've had Mishlei, I just want to refresh our memory on what the previous pasuk was, and then maybe look at the next pasuk just to see if there's any obvious connections here. By the way, we're almost done with chapter 12. Exciting. Okay. So the last one was Da'aga b'lev ish yashchena v'davar tov yisamchena. When there is worry in the heart of a person, he should lower it, and a good thing will convert it to gladness. Okay, that does not, on the surface, seem to have anything to do with our pasuk. I can see some sort of like contrived, connections, but I don't think it's like obviously related. And then the next one is lo yacharoch ramia tsedo v'hon adam yakar harutz. Okay, don't know what that means. I mean, I know what that means, but I don't think that's obviously related. Okay, so let's go on the assumption that it's not related. Okay, so we have our questions. We have a lot of questions. Let me copy and paste them into the chat. And then we will take our thinking minute. And then we will think. Oops, hold on. Okay, so that is there. I'm going to go ahead. I don't know if this is the right assumption, and I don't know if you could respond, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that the person who just called in is David, who is now in his car. And not a spy.
Yeah, that's David's son.
Okay. All right, very good. Okay, let me go back and put this on the screen. Okay, so let us take our thinking minute here. A lot to think about. And when you prepare to say your idea, then please again just do us all a favor and say if you're going with translation 1 or translation 2. All right, let's think. This is a fun one. Okay, Ariel, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that yeah, I know you mentioned this in the message, but it's like very, very relevant to,
yeah.
now, and it's just I'll just start off with the first half of the pasuk on translation number 2 at Tzadik, spies, and his friend.
Yeah.
I think there are 2 reasons why you can spy on your friend. One is to know who he actually is, and I think these are situations where certain events can bring out the true individual. The truth will come out, and there are times where you're pressed in a corner, and you'll know who your friends actually are, and whether they're in line with your morals, whether they're in line with your value system. And I think that's one, you want to vet who they are. That's one. And a tzaddik doing that, and a tzaddik would do that because he cares about the system and he wants to align himself with individuals who are in line with the greater good of the mission that he wants to put forth.
Yeah.
Another reason why you would want to spy on someone is, it's possible that he's clueless and he needs guidance. You want a tzaddik is there to guide individuals, and he wants to put him on the right path as well.
Okay. All right, those are really two good, really good explanations of the first half. Let me write that down. So so this is Ariel, and this is translation 2. So there are 2 reasons why a tzaddik would spy on someone. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say I'll put this in Brisker terms. Okay. As a hefza, okay, or 2 as a gavra. Okay. What do I mean by that? By 1, I mean that a tzaddik cares about the welfare of the system. And in order to act in the best interest of the system, he has to know all the facts, especially the facts that are not obvious, but could make a huge difference. Okay. And yeah. 2 is the tzaddik's goal is to help every member of the system, but not all needs or problems are obvious. So he'll have to go out of his way to obtain that information. Okay, that's a really good
and I'll just give you an example. I mean,
yeah, I'm gonna give an example after you do. Yeah.
Or bisman azah, I see 2 types of people. One individual who's neutral. They don't know the truth about what the situation is, and they could waver back and forth, and you have a responsibility to align them with the truth. And the other person is just you don't want to be around him anymore because of his values.
Right.
That's just it.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's one example. Another example, which I'm going to turn the recording off for. Hold on. This just happened this morning. No, yesterday. Happened yesterday. Let's see. Where is the recording on this new Zoom thing? Okay, pause recording. Okay, Ariel, did you have an interpretation for the second half?
Yeah.
That's fine, but yeah.
I mean, I think in my mind it seems pretty simple. Maybe not. But I think that the Rasha they just don't care about the proper value system, and they want the most possible destruction that they can have against that proper system, and they're willing to lead them astray. I mean,
who are they leading astray?
Anyone.
Okay.
I think anyone anyone who's against their system.
Okay. So I think it's not that what you're saying is false. I feel like your question about the opposites really necessitates something that is a more direct opposite for the second half. In other words, I really want to see like how is the second half the opposite of the first half? Anyone have any? I have an idea based on your first half. By the way, what you're saying in your first half is what I was going to say as well, but you said 2 possibilities. I was only going to say number 1. So I'm glad that you brought up the second one also. Yeah, Ayala?
Maybe the Tzadik is using this information which he gets from spying in order to help out the system, but the Rasha is also going to spy in order to use this information in a destructive way.
Okay, that's good. That's not what I was going to say, but that's really good. Okay, so in contrast, the Rasha also engages in spying, but does it in order. See, that is what you were saying, Ariel, but Ayala is explaining it in a way that stems from the main idea. Okay, so in order to misuse and abuse the system and its members, in order to get what he wants, okay, i.e. Power and greatness. Yeah, okay, good. I was going to say something slightly different, which I actually like what Ayala is saying better, but I'll just say alternative second half is that it's not stating an opposite. It's stating an elaboration on the first half, which is that I'll just say this. This is not stating the opposite, but it's an elaboration on the first half. Okay. The tzaddik needs to spy on everyone in the system, but especially the Rasha, especially the Rashaim, who will go out of their way to mislead people deliberately. Okay, in other words, deliberately. The other people in the system that the tzaddik is spying on are not necessarily trying to hide things. It's just stuff that might not come to the surface. But the Rasha is gonna like deliberately going to be trying to throw him off the scent. You know, so let's say for example, like in the Chumash, you know, you have all those midrashim about Yitzchak and Esav, you know, like fooling Yitzchak and making him think that he was righteous, you know. And if Yitzchak, there's a Rבינו Yona somewhere in Mishlei. I don't remember where it is offhand. Actually, let me see if I can find it. I'm gonna do something which is ill-advised. I'm gonna search for, sorry, not Tzadik. I'm gonna search for Yitzchak. I'm sure there's gonna be lots of results, but there can't be that many in Rבינו Yona on Mishlei. If I can't find it right away, then I'll have to post it in the chat later. But yeah, in other words, there is a mistake that tzaddikim could fall prey to, which is not being in tune, since they themselves don't operate in a deceptive manner. Oh, look, there's only one. Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe he doesn't say this. Maybe, no, he doesn't say this. I don't think. Hold on. Never mind. Sorry. I wrote this in notes on Rבינו Yona but he doesn't say it. It's a question on Yitzchak. That Yitzchak, there was some idea in Mishlei I learned that Yitzchak was like lacking in this, that he took Esav at face value and did not investigate sufficiently, and it ended up potentially causing harm. Yeah. Okay. Good. Does anyone have anything else to add to Ariel's idea? Use the party symbol if you do. Okay. Next is Isaiah.
Okay, so I'm going to be dealing with the first translation.
Okay.
Actually, 1b.
1b.
And the topic is what do they call it? Righteous gymnasts. So basically, I think that Rishaim have an issue, or maybe Tzadikim have a benefit in that they have a certain amount of humility that allows them to not get stuck on a specific path when they're making decisions, or so like they won't get attracted to their first idea of how they want to solve something, or like something is their path because it's theirs or something like that. So they have a flexibility in terms of being able to branch off in different directions. So this gives them an advantage over other people who don't have that sort of flexibility. But a Rasha is like they're like attached to their ideas. And they go, for them, it's like a derech. It's like something that they are drawn directly towards, and so they stray when they think of their ideas, because they're not necessarily right when they think of them at the first time. So they're led astray.
Okay, so I hear your idea. I have one problem with it, but I'll pose this question and then I'll type out your idea. Is think about if there ends up being a problem with your idea, like a refutation. What would we need to find in order to refute your explanation of the pasuk? Let me just write this down though. Okay, so the tzaddik has an advantage over his fellow in that he has a certain fluidity and flexibility in how he approaches things. Therefore, he won't get stuck on a single path or approach, but will be able to examine things from different angles and act accordingly. The Rasha, on the other hand, becomes attached to his path. Okay, and I think you can use extreme examples like Hitler, or like any of the great evil people in history, who the more of a Rasha they become, the more fixed they become to their plan. Okay, or you could take a garden variety Rasha who is just trying to undermine a specific system, and he's so caught up in, let's take Haman, right? I mean, he's a great Rasha also, but like so caught up in his one vision of success that he can't shake it, and the path itself leads him astray. That the path itself leads him astray because he can't see or act beyond its confines. Okay, so Isaiah, what would you need? What could we find that would topple your interpretation? Not the idea, but the interpretation.
Counter examples.
Okay. I was going to say
know.
is that if you have anything that talks about derech tzadikim, then that I feel like that poses a problem to your path or to your interpretation, right?
It depends on what the derech is.
Okay, it depends on what it says about it. Okay, let's just see for kicks. Derech tzadik. See if there's any mishlei pasukim that say that. Because you're right. If it said something that was that pointed to that was consistent with your idea, then that'd be fine. Okay, so we have here Laman Telech B'derech Tov, Tzitkas Tamim Darko. That's Tamim. Yasimir Hutzadik. Okay, Orach Tzedaka Chaim B'derech Tosh from Derech Rasha B'derech Tzedaka Timatze Tzadikim. No, Yochas Tzadik Darko. Oh, that's interesting. That's an EO though. Okay, fine. All right, so no overt psukim that contradict this. Okay, I hear that, and that is the I would show you in the thing behind me, but instead I'm just gonna pull it up. Bruce, oops. Let's see if I can find it. Bruce Lee 3 stages. I've got to have a no. Okay, so let me look on here. Bruce Lee 3 stages of cultivation. So as you have seen, the 3 things behind me on the wall are Bruce Lee's 3 stages of cultivation of any art. We're not going to go into this in depth, but I just want to reference it though, for those who are familiar with the idea. Partiality, fluidity, and then emptiness. That the partiality is when you basically have a specific tool or specific technique that you can only use. You're locked into a certain way of using that, that like, I have to like kick or punch in this exact way. And like, it's one piece and that's it. And you're not seeing things in terms of the system. You're not even seeing beyond the confines of this tool. Fluidity is when you've mastered each tool enough to be able to like use the proper tools when they're called for in the proper way. And an emptiness is when you're not bound by any specific tool. And that's the slogan of Jeet Kune Do, of Bruce Lee's form of martial arts, which is I'm going to find here, using no way as way and having no limitation as limitation. And that's when you are not bound by any path, like Isaiah saying about the Tzadik. Okay, good. I like that idea. Okay. Anyone want to add anything to that idea? Okay, next up is Rivki.
So I am going with the first actual translation, so 1A, so it works out. And I don't know how much I love this idea,
sure.
But I wanted to hear how you thought that idea fit into the words.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking that the person, I think in general, we like being friends with people that are very similar to us. And that's not the case all the time, but I think oftentimes people are drawn to people that either in the same, social circles or whatever. And generally speaking, there are a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that this pasuk is really about what type of friend you're making, and based on your own character traits, both your good character traits and your bad character traits.
Yeah.
So I think that the first half is saying that it's better that we have this idea that we want to be friends with people that are similar to us, but that it's even better to be friends with tzaddikim because a tzaddik will lead you on a path of just, I guess, righteousness and the ability to see the world in the way he sees it and the systems in the way that he sees them. So even if you're not a tzaddik yet, that you should seek out other tzaddikim to, I guess, be friends with. And then the opposite for the second half, that, let's say if you're not necessarily the best person, but you're not a full-on Rasha yet, or maybe even if you are, I don't know how I think about that yet. But that you should still try to be friends with the tzaddik, because even if you're not exactly like the tzaddik, and let's say you have, I don't know, just a random example, you have a very bad anger problem, then you should still seek out to be friends with tzaddikim and not other people that would have a really bad anger problem.
Okay, and I just missed though, what's your interpretation of the second half?
So the second half would be that even if you're not, I'm really attaching it to the first half of the pasuk, meaning that the ideal for both halves is to be friends with a tzaddik, because a Rasha, even if you're more similar and you're more, I guess, like closer on the spectrum to being a Rasha than being a tzaddik, it's still better to be friends with a tzaddik, someone on that end, because you're gonna have better results for yourself.
Okay, so I'm gonna summarize your idea, then I'll comment on it. So the subject of this pasuk is friend selection. Okay, friend selection. We tend to gravitate towards people we are similar to, but we should go out of our way to become friends with tzaddikim, because that association will improve us, okay, in many ways. I'll quote Rambam in a second, in many ways. And the second half is saying that even if you're a Rasha, you'll be better off associating with tzaddikim, because their good will rub off on you, whereas your fellow Rishayim will lead you further astray. I feel like there's probably, if I knew Jewish history more, I could probably find examples where actually I know one in Stoic history is I'm blanking. Seneca was under Nero, was the a tutor to Nero, and Nero was a very bad guy, and ended up, costing Seneca his life. But you have to believe that, like, if Seneca was around, it probably Nero probably lived a better life under the influence of Seneca than he would have otherwise, and there's probably examples in Judaism as well of people who were here's an example. You could debate about how Nebuchadnezzar is a tough nut to crack, because he had certain admirable qualities and was a Rasha in other ways, but definitely gained tremendous benefit from associating with Daniel and Hanan and Mishael and Azariah, and so there's a lot of examples of that as well. I just to quote the support, I think earlier, I can't remember if this was I think this was this year in September. At one point in probably a Wednesday night here, I asked, what is the Rambam I quote the most? And I think Ayala, did you say it was this one, the in Deos? Yeah,
the friends. Yep.
Yeah. I definitely, I do think you're right. This is the one I quote the most. I had modified my question there to be the one in Hilchos Tshuva. But yeah, Derech Brias Shel Adam Lios Nimshach B'Deosav V'Masav Acharei V'Chaverav. It's human beings by nature are drawn after the traits and actions of their comrades and friends. V'noheg, associates and friends. V'noheg b'minhag anshe medinaso, and they behave like the behavior of the people in their society, their country. Lefikach, therefore, tzarich adam lehischaber letzadikim v'leishav etel hachachamim. Therefore, a person needs to befriend tzadikim and to sit near chachamim tamid constantly, kadesh yilman b'maseim, so that he learns their actions. Yisrachik min harashayim ha'holchim b'choshech kadesh lo yilman b'maseim. And he should distance himself from the wicked who walk in darkness, so that he doesn't learn from their actions. And Rivki's highlighting there's two separate things, right? There's the positive learning from the tzaddik, but then if you're with a Rasha, it's not just that you're not learning from the tzaddik, it's that you're actively being led astray. Husha Shlomo Omer, this is what Shlomo meant when he says, Holech es chachamim yachkam v'roek silim yeroa. One who walks with the wise will become wise, but one who befriends fools will become broken. But Omer, and it says in Tehillim, Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach b'atzas rishayim, etc. Happy is the man who does not follow the counsel of the wicked, etc., etc. Yeah. So the question is, what do I think of this idea, Rivki? So I think the idea is good. I think the thing that still bothers me, not that there's a problem with it, but it's still the wording of the first pasuk of the first half is just a little weird. A tzaddik is better than his friend. In other words, the thrust of your idea is positively urging us to become friends with tzaddikim. So saying a tzaddik or maybe, I think your idea fits in better with 1b. A tzaddik has an advantage over his friend. In other words, you the way you started off, that people seek friends who are like the same, as them. And I feel like there is a certain type of pettiness that certain people have, where there's certain people who will feel envious when their friend is better than they are in a certain area, and that will be a cause of a friction or even like a fracture in the friendship. Whereas if you seek out no, you should seek out friends who are better than you, because that's going to rub off on you. And the best one in that category is the Tzadik, because they have like distinct advantages in terms of not like, if you have a friend who's like, I don't know, better at studying than you are, okay, fine. That's like a quality that they happen to have. But the Tzadik is like working on himself to improve himself, to think about the world in a different way, and to think about himself in a different way. And like, that would be of great service to you. What do you think? Do you think 1A works better or 1B works better?
I still think that 1A works better, but it could be because of the way that I was thinking about it when the idea popped into my head.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the whole idea came from those words. Because I was thinking, do you want me to explain?
Yeah, please do.
So because I was thinking that the actual translation, like the wording of it, is that I was kind of thinking that there's a few people in just the first half. So there's the subject of the pasuk. So let's say, like, I'll just use myself. So let's say it's me. And then there's a potential Tzadik friend. And then there's like other friends that I have that are just kind of.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. You're saying that, okay, I didn't see you reading it that way. You're saying that when you're choosing friends, the Tzadik is better than your friend, like than your fellow.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. I see it now.
Reading into it, but that's just how I understood.
Okay,
it.
no. Now I see what you're saying. Okay, I agree with your idea. I also think it's a good read of the pasuk, but I also think, and I think I actually like yours. 1A, the way you just explained it, fits in better than the way 1B I was trying to explain it. Okay, good. Okay, that's good. I like it. Nice, good. I like the idea. Okay, next is my dad.
So you stole my thunder a little bit. I was looking for the common element between the relationship between the friend and the Tzadik in 1A, 1B, and 2. What's the common element there? And the common element to me is that there's a potential for conflict. That, as a matter of fact, why do you even need to say that the Tzadik is better than his friend or has an advantage over his friend? Those things are obvious.
Right.
Comparing a Tzadik and anyone who's not a Tzadik. So, this, it seems to emphasize the difference between those two, and there could be some resentment or some competitiveness or something that could disturb the relationship that the Rasha may be taking advantage of.
Okay, so let me start off with the first half here. So on the surface, the first half is obvious, okay? But that's the point. That we know the Tzadik is better than his friend, his fellow, but are you going with what Rivki's saying, that you should like not let that deter you, or like they should become friends with him? What's the
not
what is
let
Mishlei
that
telling
deter
you? What is Mishlei telling you? I understand that there could be conflict because the Tzadik is better than you. Are you giving an interpretation of what Mishlei is telling us to do?
No, I hadn't thought that out.
Okay, so I'm going to just write what you said so far. Okay, and then we could always develop it later. Okay, so then this can sometimes be the cause of conflict in a relationship. And the Rasha totally exploits his fellow. Okay, so these are the pieces that I heard from you.
The idea that a Tzadik spying on his friend, that's really a big step for someone to take in a relationship, that I'm going to spy on the person. I mean, there's something really wrong there if you're spying on your friend.
Well, unless you're doing it for the reason that that Ariel was saying, right? Like if spying means trying to gather all data on them, and if the reason why you're doing it is, this is why I like Ariel's idea, which is that spying could be, okay, let me back up. Like Rabbi Moskowitz always says, what would you say if I took a knife and I went up to you and I cut you, right? And then Rabbi Moskowitz would say, well, it depends. If I am trying to rob you in a dark alley, then that's bad. But if I'm a surgeon who's operating on you to cure you, then that's good, So same thing here is spying, which we're defining as like going to the nth degree to seek out like all the information you can, could be bad if you're using it in order to manipulate and take advantage of someone, but it could be good if you're doing it in order to help the person and to improve them. Would you say, for example, that it is, I mean, obviously there's limits in all these cases, like, you're not going to like break open into someone's like journal and read it, but like, let's say, for example, you are mentoring someone, or let's say you're a parent, or my example with a teacher, you want all the information that you can in order to be in the best position to help this person and to be able to help the society as a whole. So I don't think it's intrinsically good or bad. I think it depends on why you're doing it.
What spying implies is the person you're spying on is trying to hide what you're looking to find out.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the Jews, the Meraglim and the Chumash spied on the land, right? We use that word spying. The land wasn't hiding anything. It's that they were going into the land to rigorously gather information. Spying, I don't think it has to imply an act of concealment. That you're trying to like break through to,
I guess
again,
I'm just
part of this is the lack in. Let me just go up to the dictionary definition again. Tur means to seek out, to spy out, or to explore. Okay, I think that we can't lean too heavily into one of the, like, the spying has a lot of connotations, including like disguises and fake identities and stuff. Like I don't think yeah, right. Yeah. If it makes you feel more comfortable to keep it broader, of like to seek out information, then I think that I think that's a better read. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think this is either going to contribute to another interpretation that we already have, or this could lead to something new. I'm not sure I see where it's going exactly right now. Anything I was missing in terms of what you were saying?
Just that the Rishayim, the Rasha, maybe this is what he's looking for. He's looking for this, the crack in the friendship, and to take advantage of it.
Okay, and spies on his fellow to look for the weak spots to take advantage. Okay, yeah, I think that's good. To me, that fits in with what Ariel was saying, that about the difference between why the Rasha spies and why the Tzadik spies. And I think I think you were just articulating the initial response to the pasuk of like, why would a Tzadik spy on someone? And I think Ariel's answering that. Okay, Noah.
Okay, so I was also seeking harmony, and this could fall under a number of numbers, I suppose. But okay. I first wanted to say something when Ariel was speaking. So I'm reading that the Tzadik is doing the work to get the information necessary to have a relationship of specificity with someone, not a general relationship, a direct individual relationship with a direct individual person. And that enables the Tzadik and this other person, his friend, to hopefully, fit into the system the way that that person's supposed to fit into the system and have their relationship be good. Whereas the plural Rishayim are like more go along to get along. This is what everyone does. Like, you should learn to code, even if you're supposed to be a rabbi, and the one size fits all approach to things, which is like not it. But so many people fall into that because it's easy to do that. Specificity takes a lot of work. So that's
okay. I like that. So the Tzadik seeks information about his friend in order to cultivate a relationship of specificity, which will be maximally beneficial for all parties, really. Okay. The Rashaim, plural, seek, what do you call it? How do you characterize the one size fits all general path? You had a good way of saying it. I forgot what it was.
Go along to get along. I mean, just something that doesn't honor the unique individual and his place in the world. Okay.
Which does not honor the
mob mentality. I mean, like, there are a lot of bullet points you could put under it.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to capture the gist here. just for note-taking purposes. Right. And that can often prove destructive. Destructive because we are individuals. And glossing over those differences is bad for the individual and for the system. Rifki, can you think of any education system?
I literally waiting. I was like, do I unmute myself? Do I send a message? It's bursting. Yes.
Yeah. You want to say what you're thinking?
Yes. Well, we've had a lot of conversations when I was in high school and post. That oftentimes people like the system that we have, even in yeshiva systems, not just public schools,
Right.
Just allow kids to fall through the cracks. And it's just very standardized. It's everyone has to think and, write and whatever in the same way. And it's very destructive because obviously we're not like that. And whoever came up with it clearly did not learn this pasuk.
Yeah, well, it was worse than that, right? I don't know if you remember my my whole lesson on the dark history of American education, but all of the educational theorists who crafted the system that we're in, which is to create non-thinking factory workers, to stand out individuality.
I think I blocked it out because it was
yeah, right. And can you name any school system that does try and honor the individual? Maybe one.
I think that I'm thinking Sweden, but it's not. What am I thinking of?
I think you're thinking of Finland.
I know it.
Wasn't it Finland?
Finland, yes. It was a long day. I've been working.
Yeah, no. I mean, I know like maybe those other things as well. But yeah, So I think that's a good example of this. Okay, good. Ariel, and then we will go to meforshim.
All right, I want to try to explain the plural versus singular.
Sure, within your idea or as a separate thing?
Separate, not necessarily within my idea. Maybe Rishayim, like maybe the idea is that they spread. It's very contagious. It's very like it's like the line that Winston Churchill used to say: "A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get up and put his pants on."
Yeah.
So like there's something contagious about bad news, and like I feel like humans it's easier to, I think, maybe not become, but more slanting towards the Russia side versus perfecting ourselves because we're like by nature we're like animals.
Yeah.
So it could spread like wildfire, and if it's not shut down immediately, then it could be problematic. And a tzaddik, like the idea of a tzaddik is very difficult, and it could be like almost like a lonely journey to get there. So that's kind of like
okay. Tzadik is lonely and difficult, and is only attained by individuals. Yeah. Yep. All right. That's good. That could slot into different interpretations. Okay. Very good. These are nice ideas. Let's see what some of our go-to meforshim say. I did not really have. So the idea I was going to say was Ariel's idea as well, but I think Ariel developed it in a really nice way. So I don't have anything else to contribute here, but let's see what the meforshim say. We're going to just go through some of our favorite, our go-to ones. Mitzudas David, Tzadik yesh lo yisron umala mire'ehu she'eno tzadik. So the Tzadik has an advantage and a distinction, high elevated quality over his fellow who is not a Tzadik. Aval derech Rishayim hamatzlacha, so that's where our scroll got it from. But the successful path of the Rasha, he mate es harashayim le'echos b'darcham. It leads the Rishayim astray to cling to their way, v'lo yifnu el hayisron hahu, and to not turn to that advantage. Okay, so like many Mitzudas David ideas, we have to really scrutinize this in order to get the idea of what he's saying. So I'm going to actually just type this out here. So we can see it. So he says, the tzaddik has an advantage and distinction over his fellow who is not a tzaddik, but the path of the Rishayim, when it is successful, leads the Rashaim astray to cling to their paths and not turn towards that advantage. All right, so what the question is, what is the chiddush here? What is the idea that he's trying to get at? I think I see it. Anyone see it? Okay, so what I think the idea here, I'm going to try saying it before I write it. I'll just set it up here. So I think what he's saying is that that I don't know what the point of the pasuk is yet, but the tzaddik has an advantage, but it's not going to manifest itself in a visibly appealing way necessarily. Whereas the Rasha's success is going to be very flashy. Okay. And the thing is that we know from many other Mishlei Psukim and from Tehillim that the Rasha's success is not does not last. Derek Roshaim Toved, that the path of the wicked is self-destructive. So you end up with a really bad combination because now you have the audience that Mishlei is talking to, and he sees the Rasha flourishing and succeeding. Okay, and he takes that as a sign that if I want to be better than, if I want to be excellent, if I want to excel over everyone, then I should pursue that. So he emulates the Rasha, and that ends up causing him self-destruction. But the tzaddik has this advantage, and it's not so visible and so flashy. So it's possible that the pasuk is like directing you and saying that it's not going to appear very very flashy. You can look at, think of the tzaddikim who it's like them and you see the advantages that they have, from the way that they live, but that's not something that the outsider can get just by looking at it. Like, it's not just because it's not in line with like the value system of the culture, so they're not going to necessarily spot it. So it's saying that it's funny. It almost comes out. I know this is not the way Matsudas David is saying it. You have to like spy on the tzaddik, not to like get hidden information, but you have to like be looking out for like let's say like noticing, for example, that, again, assuming that this is truly a tzaddik, like noticing, hey, it's weird. Like, this person doesn't fight with his wife over petty things. Like, this person doesn't get upset when there are setbacks. This person like is constantly involved in self-improvement. This person is like constantly helping everyone around. These are very, very quiet, not in your face sorts of advantages that you need to like look for and not get like dazzled by the success of the Rasha. That's what I'm getting from the Matsudas David. Think if there's anything you want to add to this. I'm just going to take notes really quickly. So the success of the Rasha is very flashy and appealing, which will entice a person to pursue it, which will ultimately be to his detriment. The tzaddik has a real advantage over his fellow, but it's not obvious. You have to know it exists and look for it, and then you'll realize that this is the better path. Okay, so to me, the subject of this pasuk is the visibility of the Rasha's success and its allure, in contrast to the to the subtle success of the tzaddik, which has to be looked for. Okay, yeah, Rifki?
Yeah, I just wanted to also add to that I don't remember, I was just talking about this with someone recently, but and I guess it gets also a little bit into the topic of Tzadik Baralo, which is a very complex topic, obviously. Yeah. But also, like, even when a bad thing happens to a tzaddik, it doesn't deter him in that lifestyle. And like a person look at that and be like, oh, well, like, why are you even doing what you're doing? And it's kind of the same thing with like this idea that a tzaddik won't necessarily always have success in everything that he does, but he's not deterred, and that we should follow that like line of thinking. No,
that's good. Yeah, all of that that aspect of the Tzadik Baralo is I think relevant to this idea. It's a good call. Okay, let's check out Rבינו Yona. He says, when a tzaddik has a quarrel between himself and a member of his people, Le'olam yihi tzadik yaser besavlanus ob inyan vitur mamon. The tzaddik will always be better in like patience or tolerance and in like his willingness to like part with money or to overlook money. That is something that is their derech, it's in their way of honor and stature and advantage, superiority. The derech Rishayim tatem ki yachshvu harishayim asher hanitzuch b'divrei mamon or ba'esik mamon hu hakavod. The Rishayim will think that victory in monetary matters and in matters involving money, that's kavod, that's glory. V'chi hasavlanus shiflus, and they'll think that being like tolerant here, tolerant is a bad word, and patient is also a bad word. Basically, being willing to like take a loss, you know, they'll think that is lowliness. That's like bizui. That's like degradation. We've already elaborated on this above. It's interesting. Okay, so this is he's connecting this to some other idea. I mean, I don't see where he's getting this from in the pasuk, so he must be getting it from somewhere else. But it is interesting that he's saying that his idea is that the tzaddik is going to have a different I'm trying to find an expression here. To the Rasha, the only thing that matters is winning and losing in money. The tzaddik will realize that there are more important things than money and will maintain his character and not let this type of dispute get to him, you know, whereas the Rasha is going to like try to win at every cost. Yeah, Isaiah, did you want to add something?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to me like a Mishlei idea, really. Like he has more covered, but like, why is that going to practically work out better for him?
For the tzaddik, you mean?
Yeah, for the tzaddik.
Yeah. So I think the same reason why, or not same reason, a similar reason to, you could say, you know, why should there be a mitzvah of kavod chachamim? You know, they don't need the kavod. And the answer is, yeah, they don't need the kavod, but it is good for society, for tzaddikim to have kavod and for people to recognize it, because then they'll emulate them and tzaddikim will be in a position of greater influence. So I think the kavod is something that the tzaddik will be interested in, not for selfish reasons, but for the sake of the system. Yeah, I'm not going to write this one down because I think we would need to really like compare it to other Rביnu Yona to do justice. I want to look at this gra because that was where I saw him explain the path thing. I also want to see if I can find someone who talks about the spying. He says, "Kiderach tzadikim." Oh yeah, here we go. Yaser mirehu tzadik. Kiderach tzadikim lahastir maseim lahatznia lechas. So it is the way of tzadikim, putting in path, to conceal their actions and to walk modestly. But someone who wants to be a tzaddik and to follow in the ways of Hashem, who maragil mitzadik chavero drachav lalechas bem. He'll spy on his fellow tzaddik or his friend who's a tzaddik in order to learn the ways to follow. Okay, this is from the word v'yasuru. They spied out the land of Canaan. Okay, can anyone think of a famous example in the Gemara? I mean, this is an extreme example, but there's a famous story about a Talmud who spied on his Rav in what many would consider an inappropriate context. Anyone know the story I'm talking about?
Is it a bathhouse? I feel like it always is.
There is a bathhouse one. Yeah, I was thinking about the other one.
Yeah,
Under
I know.
bed.
Yeah, is he hid under his Rebbe's bed, right? Because he wanted to learn like how his Rebbe conducted himself in private with his wife, and his that ended up not being a very that was drawing the this too is Torah he right this is Torah, I need to learn it, so there are boundaries here, but I definitely think that that this is I've definitely done this. I mean, I'm not saying like spying, but like you watch and you see how the tzaddikim conduct themselves in areas that wouldn't necessarily be seen. And I'm going to give a really weird example. This is not at all the greatest example of this that I can give, but very formative experience that I had is in 2008 when I went furniture shopping with Rav Pesach. Like the dorm needed new furniture, and like we went furniture shopping, and I got to like watch him like interacting with all of the employees and like picking out what the furniture would be, and like it was a very, very good experience. Or like seeing Rabbi Moskowitz when we would go to coffee or something, seeing how Rabbi Moskowitz interacted with like the barista, and like just seeing little things like that. The tzaddikim are not advertising these things. You have to be on the lookout for them in order to like learn the derech to be a tzaddik. And that's why there are a lot of these anecdotes in the Gemara and midrashic literature that record like these everyday mundane interactions, because that's how you being a tzaddik is not all about the flashy things. It's about like every decision they make. So you can learn from everything that way. V'derech Roshaim tateim avah Roshaim darkam be'isgalia. I assume isgalia means like begalui, but why is he using Aramaic? I just want to see if isgalia means something else. If anyone knows, feel free to speak up. Isgalia. Isgalia. What about wait a minute. Did I miss it? No, it's not there. What about Isgalia? Okay, I'm gonna assume it means in the open. Okay, I just don't know why he switched to Aramaic. About Harushaim Darkam Isgalia, their way is revealed. That also doesn't make sense to me. Oh yeah, I guess it's revealed in the sense that it's the opposite. They're not trying to conceal it in that way. V'zehuma should be Isgalia zo tatem, and the fact that it is revealed leads them astray. Ki achad lomid es atmo mechavero. Each one learns for himself from his friend. V'zeh shekaz of Roshaim lashon rabim. Oh, so he's saying like this. He's saying the Roshaim are very open about what they do, and what's going to happen is his friends will learn from the actions of the other Rashaim. In other words, like halavai, like if only the Rashaim concealed their evil behavior, right? Like that's one of the differences that I don't think I wrote about this, but that I've seen people in the comparison between Hamas and the Nazis, that the Nazis covered up what they were doing. You know, Hamas is doing it openly, you know, and like in that sense, like there's a greater danger in the open doing of evil because it's easier for like-minded people to emulate. Whereas if you're keeping it to yourself, you know, you're harming yourself, but at least you're not like exposing other people to it in a way where they're going to emulate. Yeah. And he says that's why it's written in the many. That's kind of related to Ariel's idea that it's easier to spread to other people. Yeah. Okay. I will summarize that in a second. Okay. So let's just review all the ideas we had. I think this is a good haul for tonight. Okay. So we had Ariel's idea / the idea that I wanted to say, which is that the pasuk is talking about two types of spying. That spying here means gathering as much intel as you can. The Rasha will do it in order to take advantage and to oh, it's mango. Okay. The Rasha will do it in order to take advantage of the people who they're preying upon, and they'll exploit their weaknesses. And that'll lead them further astray. But the tzaddik will do it in order to be able to gain knowledge of the system, to know to be able to help the system as a whole, and to be able to help the people themselves with their own needs and their own improvement. Yeah. Okay. Then Isaiah's idea was about the relationship to derech, that the Rasha has a derech, a set way of thinking of like getting of like an agenda and like a way to get it, and that derech is going to be cause of their destruction. Haman wanted to get in the good graces of the king and queen, and he thought that that's going to lead him to kavod, and that ended up being a blind spot for him. Whereas the tzaddik is going to have this fluidity and flexibility, which I think is a function of their intellectual humility and their recognition of Chachmas Hashem, realizing that like I need to constantly be open to new facts and to changing myself, and that's gonna they won't get caught up in their derech in the same way. Rivki said that this is about friend selection, that the first half is saying Yasser Mireyehu tzaddik. If you have to choose between someone who's reyehu, who's like you, and someone who's a tzaddik, the tzaddik is better, and you should align yourself. You should friend up, right? You should become friends with people who are better than you, because they will elevate you, unless you're really bad at it, because then you might drag them down. But you know, hopefully they're tzaddik enough to like resist that, and you're not that bad. And that will rub off on you in a positive Hilchos Deos Perek Vav way. And the contrary, if you align yourself with Roshaim, that's going to lead you further astray. And then we had Noah's idea, which is that the tzaddik tries to relate to people as individuals, and that is for their own sake, for the sake of the individual, for the sake of the community, for the sake of communication. Everything is going to be better the more individual, the more individual your relationship is. Lafi dato shaben aviv malamdo. According to the son's mind, then the father should instruct him. Chanach l'na'ar al pi darko. Educate individually. But the Rashaim will have a one size fits all, go along to get along type approach, which is going to gloss over all the individual differences, and that's going to end up being bad. I have not thought about this, but feel free to work that into a Devar Torah for Migdal Bavel. The land was Sfas Achaz Udvarim Achadim, right? So I know there's a lot of interpretations on that. But unity was their problem, right? And this could be like a bad type of unity if it glosses over all the differences. Metzudas David's idea was about the allure of the Rasha's success can cause people to be led astray by their derech because it's so flashy. And the Tzadik does have an allure, but it's subtle and under the surface, and you need to look for it. Okay, nice ideas. Very good. Okay, so this is the end of the official shiur, and as I mentioned before, it was requested that if we want to take some time to just talk about how we're feeling in this situation of Ace Tzara, then we could talk about that now. So I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to stop this recording. I'll record again in case, I'm not going to post this, but in case anyone ends up wanting it. Let me stop this.